Hey folks, how you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World live streams. What's happening? Hey, I see we got a couple of viewers there. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we have a lot of stuff to get through today. So hopefully, if I stick to the script and not ramble on so much, hopefully we'll get through it all. So let's see here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And this is our live stream for October 10th, 2020. So before we get started, let's, as we always do, sort of review what we've already done. So here is our kind of woodland fantasy scene that we have here with our sort of hobbit halfling girl in the middle being surrounded by goblins or whatnot. And yeah, I think it's coming along pretty good. So today we're going to just do some more basically filling in flat colors, and then maybe we'll start actually doing some of the some of the value changes. Right, shadows and highlights and etc, etc, etc. So, I'm predicting this is going to take 2 or 3 streams to get through it all. You know, that and also the fact that I haven't actually like painted anything in such a long time. You know, these are skills that if you don't use them, they atrophy, right? So, I'm yeah, kind of relearning as we go along. So, anyway, all right. So, what do we want to talk about first? Well, let's start with the big news that's going on right now out there. And what it was that in Michigan last week, the FBI foiled foiled a plot of these militia guys who are better described as domestic terrorists, right? A group called the Michigan Wolverine Watchmen. Wolverine Watchmen, right? Yeah. And they wanted to kidnap the governor of Michigan, hold her for trial, and, you know, murder her, essentially. And then also, we're planning on shooting a bunch of cops, the first responders being police, and were caught by the FBI when they started to build their own bombs, you know, IED, explosive devices, right? Improvised explosive device, IED. So if you remember what those are the things that the Taliban and ISIS and whatnot used against soldiers, our soldiers in Iraq. That's what these guys were planning on, you know, building. And yeah, it's well, why did they want to do this? Why did these guys plan on executing this attack? Basically, is what it was. Because it was in protest of the governor enacting lockdown measures and mask standards. And these guys didn't like that. So if you remember about, you know, right when all of this pandemic stuff started in Michigan, there were all these right-wing armed protesters that went and took over, like, you know, took over the, you know, courthouse in Michigan there. And were, like, sitting there, like, you know, talking to, basically protesting at the state legislature with, armed with guns because, you know, right-wing protesters always armed, you know, they always protest armed for some reason. Standing there, you know, screaming about how the mask measures and the forced, you know, shelter in place and the all of these things that were designed to keep them from dying were ruining their lives and their economy, you know, ruining their businesses. And plus, you know, we're grown adults and this is America and freedom, blah, blah, blah. And if I want to die from a easily preventable disease, then God damn it, that's what I'm going to do. That's what happened, you know, that's what started all of this. And since that these guys basically, a couple of these guys were actually seen at that protest. Like they looked at the pictures of those protests and found a couple of these dudes. So let's get a picture of what these guys look like. Let me just open up my let's go to the Independent here, and I hope this thing doesn't start playing videos and shit, because I don't want to be listening to no damn videos. But there was a picture of what these guys looked like. Let's see if it's here. God damn it. No, go back. Was this it? No, this is not the right one. Sorry. I had a link that actually showed... had a link that had... Here it is. Okay. Social media posts from these guys. So, how does the right wing react to this? Because this is like a major story that's out there, right? There are, believe it or not, people on the right wing who are trying to blame this on leftists, trying to call these guys left, because that's always what happens whenever you get, like say a mass shooter who's obviously, from the right wing of the spectrum, right? Or, a criminal or something like that. There's always damage control, and the damage control always tries to spin it and say, hey, well, this guy's actually a leftist, and they'll do that pretty much every single time. So there was pictures of one of these guys. Let me go ahead and open up my left monitor here. And let's see, I got to turn off all the ads. See, if I turn on my ad blocker, what happens is that you just can't, it won't even let you go to the website at all. Right. So this is the Daily Mail UK talking about social media posts that these various guys said. Right. We'll read through some of that. But what I want to do is I want to kind of show you what these dudes sort of look like. So here we go. This guy is Brandon Caserta, one of 6 men facing federal charges. Nice fuck the government shirt this dude is wearing. Right. Here's a guy with a 2020 Trump Keep America Great hat. Pete Musico, co-founder of the Wolverine Watchmen Militia. Militia is kind of a weasel word for these things because, they're terrorists. Please keep in mind if these guys were Arab, Middle Eastern descent, right? They would be using the word terrorist and not militia, right? So it's only when it's white people for some reason that they say militia. I mean, it is true that there is a militia movement in this country that goes back decades that, not all militias are terrorists, right? But, this is actually something that Vosh said. I don't know if you guys watch Vosh. I know a lot of people don't like Vosh for various views that he has on different things. But one point that he did bring up that I agree with is that he said, if you had a book club, right, and then your book club started building bombs and planned on blowing something up and were stopped by the FBI, would you say book club plans to blow up a building? Is that how you would write it? Or would you say terrorists plan to blow a building? You know what I mean? And it just seems like, if these guys were black, if this guy was black, would they be calling him a militia? Would they say, 6 militia members plan on kidnapping, or would they say 6 domestic terrorists, right? So that's something that's always funny. And it only seems to be that way when, the terrorists are white people, right? They get to be called militia members. They get to say, another headline I saw was, 6 armed men plan on kidnapping, kid planned, foiled by the FBI. That was the headline. 6 armed men plan on kidnapping governor, of Michigan instead of 6 terrorists, 6 domestic terrorists, right? Anyway, so here's this guy, co-founder of the Wolverine Watchmen Militia, who, you know, here's his Facebook page, lots of "don't tread on me" flags and stuff like that. Right. Of course, he's an anti-gun control person. It's not the gun, it was an ISIS attack. We need guns to protect from people like that. You know? Do you think this guy would agree if I were to say, hey, I need guns to protect myself from people like you? Do you think he would have said that? You know? Probably not. Probably wouldn't have said that. What if I would have said, hey, people of color need to bring guns in order to protect themselves from guys like you, from showing up at their protests and murdering them? Do you think this dude would agree with that? Probably not. See, it's only stuff that, you know, affects them. They support it. You know, if you guys remember, you know, the NRA, you know, they're a gun lobbyist group, blah blah blah. The only time the NRA ever supported gun control legislation was when the Black Panthers showed up in California with, you know, armed with guns, right? That was the only time the NRA ever actually supported, you know, gun control, right? It's when basically people who are not white start taking advantage of the shit that they like, you know, that they advocate for. Suddenly they fucking turn around. So this dude's funny. Okay. You know, I'm not going to read every single tweet he has, but Donald Trump would be great for this country. He wants the middle class to succeed, the class of people that built this country. Yep, the class of people that built this country, you know. I guess that doesn't include the class of people who were brought over forcibly from another country in bondage, who actually did the actual labor that, you know, built the infrastructure for this country. I guess that doesn't include them, right? So, moving on here. Hillary Clinton, you need to be in jail, in prison for the arms that you smuggled in Benghazi for backing ISIS. Wow. Completely buying the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to talk about Benghazi because we have covered that many, many times in the past, and I'm sure we will end up talking about it more in the future. But suffice to say, Benghazi is bullshit. Hillary Clinton did not support ISIS. You know, it's like, and that's the thing, when you see wacky people like this, it's no surprise that this guy or his friends are, you know, neck deep in the conspiracy theory world quicksand, you know, and are basically, you know what, if you immerse yourself, like, here's the thing, folks, right? Well, you know what, I'll save that for afterwards. And we're going to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories, but I'll save that for after this, because I want to get through this. Here's a funny one. People lived longer without vaccines. 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 I'm assuming he's trying to say vaccines there. You know. Yeah. People sure did, like, live a lot longer when they were dying of polio and the mumps and measles and fucking, you know, all of that shit that we have vaccines for every day. You know, I'm sure they really, really lived a lot longer. Unfucking believable. And yeah, I guess that's also not a surprise that a guy that believes in weird, wacky shit about the government would also be an anti-vaxxer. Not a surprise at all. Moving down, okay. Oh look, I'm looking to sue the federal government for the health care of my wife. That's funny. I would bet you $1 million that this dude, Pete Musico, thinks that, you know, universal health care is subversive commie bullshit. I would be willing to bet my pants on that. But no, when it comes to his family, you know, the government paying for their health care is all perfectly well and good. You know, just kind of showing you once again, even with the wacky, crazy conspiracy theory subscribing conservatives, you know, it's not what you believe, it's how much it actually personally affects them. So I'm sure if I would have said, hey, how about if my family gets the government to pay for our health care too, he'd probably call me like some kind of parasite, Right? He'd probably say I was like a parasite living on the government teats, but it's perfectly fucking okay for his wife, for him and his wife to fucking have it. Right? No contradiction at all. That's just his tax dollars at work, right? This guy, Brandon Caserta, right? So this is the guy that all of the right wingers are trying to say is a leftist. Okay. It doesn't really look like a leftist, does he? And let me show you why. Let me turn off my monitor because I'm going to go to the, you know, I'm going to go to Google image search. I want to make sure that I don't accidentally get porn on here or some shit like that. Right. So let's say Michigan militia anarchist. Here we go. And it's because of this picture. Okay. This is the bullshit that you're seeing on Facebook right now. Okay, here we go. So this is the guy. If you look, he's got, well, here, let me see if I can just open that. He has an anarchist flag in the back here. So this is the shit that people are posting on Facebook about this dude, right? Right. So where's there? Let's see if there's a better picture. Here's a better picture. You can see it right here. He has an anarchist flag in the background. So everybody's going, oh, well, since he has an anarchist flag, he must be an anarchist. And anarchism is a left-wing thing, so he must be a BLM guy. And so now you're seeing on Twitter, on Facebook, you know, and on the right-wing blogosphere, they're calling this thing a false flag. They're saying that it's like a setup, all that shit. And it's complete bullshit, because if you look at his t-shirt, you know, the guy, what he is, he's a metalhead, you know, he's into fucking metal, right? And that flag, I mean, if it's not for, you know, like a band or something, right, he most likely is, you know, an anarchist. But being an anarchist doesn't mean that you're instantly, like, you know, a progressive, or that you're part of BLM, or that you're even not a right-winger person, because there's lots of different types of anarchism. You know, there's here, let me turn all this shit off before I get flagged or whatever. Right. Anyway, yeah, there's lots of different types of anarchism, right? You know, there's fucking, you know, basically anarchism that's essentially indistinguishable from communism, right? There's anarcho-capitalism, right? Which is as far away from a leftist position that you could possibly take. And if you look at this dude looks more like he just hates the government, right? And he most definitely is not a left-winger. If you look at, I mean, he's wearing a fucking Boogaloo shirt here. If you don't know what the Boogaloo Boys are, they're basically a far right-wing racist kind of, you know, the guys that want to start a race war. That's what the Boogaloo movement is. Right. So yeah, this dude is, you know, most definitely not a leftist. Right. He just probably just really hates the government. There apparently is a video of this guy yelling and screaming about how he hates Donald Trump. So they're taking that video and the fact that he has a flag in the background that millions of teenagers in the country have, right? I mean, fuck, you know, and they're saying that this dude is a leftist, and it's like, no, he's not. You know, here's the thing about this shit, okay? It is the kind of stuff that teenagers believe. It's the kind of thing that when you're 14, 15, whatever, and you first discover alternative viewpoints, it's very attractive to somebody who has that sort of mindset, that idea that, like, oh, there's stuff out there, and what's attractive about it is that it, first off, it pisses off your parents, right? So to see, like, you know, you walking around with an anarchist shirt on when you're like 16 or something, right? You think you're a badass. Everybody who, like, actually knows what that shit is just shaking their head at you because they know it's a phase. Well, this guy never got out of the phase. I mean, look at his ass. Tattoos on his fucking hands. gauges in his ears. You know, and I'm not the kind of person who insults people for alternative lifestyles or whatever. You know, I don't give a shit myself. It's like, I am of the view that you should do whatever you want to do, and you should dress however you want to dress, right? And that's fine, right? I mean, to be honest, this is the kind of dude I probably hung out with more in my younger years than anything else. All right, I mean, shit. I know people like this guy, right? And you know, it's like, but there's a point where when you kind of outgrow some of that shit, right? And it's usually the point when you have to be self-sustainable. You have to be like, okay, I can't live at home with my mom anymore. I have to actually make a living for myself. I have to be able to, like, you know, provide for myself now. And right around that point is when the extreme living, you know, unless you happen to like live in such a way that you can sustain yourself already, like if you're a fucking tattoo artist, or like, you know, you work at a, I don't know, some kind of store that sells fucking like piercings or some shit like that. Like, unless that's like already your lifestyle, you know, people tend to kind of tone down the more wild elements in their life, in their wardrobe, and they become a little more accepting of things that, say, 5 years before they would have thought would be super lame. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I mean? Like, so I'm in my 40s, right? I find myself, you know, being a lot more acceptable of viewpoints and lifestyles and things that when I would say a teenager to an early, you know, a younger man, you know, 20, 24, 25, I would have said, like, this is like shit for old people. Like, this is lame and all that stuff, right? And there's some people that never kind of hit that phase where they just sort of like if you just look at this dude, he's basically 16 plus 10 years. That's what this dude is. Right? He never like understood that it was supposed to be a phase, right? The fucking anarchist fucking like t-shirts and like the massive tattoos everywhere, and you know, the plotting fucking revolution and shit like that, right? He never understood that it was like, all right, well, now it's time for your ass to grow up. Right? He bought into it, you know. And I guess that just, well, maybe that makes me old now. Maybe I'm not young and idealistic anymore. Right. But I also think that's sort of like, you know, when you hit a certain age, you should understand that, like, real life isn't what you thought it was when you were a kid. And along with that kind of goes with like putting away the childish things, right? I don't know if you've ever heard that, you know, when I put away the, you know, the toys of my youth and now I'm a man, or whatever that quote is. I can't remember what that quote is. It's not really, you know, it's not just you actually putting away your physical toys. It's actually like changing the way you think. This guy never actually got through that phase. This guy actually thinks that one day he's going to wake up and lead a revolution that's going to like go and kick out all the leftists in the country. Right? And you know, and take over the government, and so that Jesus can come back and outlaw abortion or whatever. So that's what this dude is. So anyway, let's move on a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time. I will put a link to this article in the bottom right. You know, because they basically hit every single fucking stupid libertarian, you know, point that you can hit. You know, the guy Musico, this dude up here, that's this dude with the beard, Musico. You know, talking about how he doesn't like wearing fucking seatbelts. That's like the most classic idiot libertarian thing that you can fucking think of. Right? Like some shit that is just like, just demonstrably proven to save lives over and over and over, but I'm not going to do it because of my freedom. You know, like it's tyranny to require somebody to wear a fucking seatbelt. That's not what fucking tyranny is, but this guy never doesn't understand that shit. You know, Bill, and then, you know, anti-vaxxers, Bill Gates, fucking how, you know, vaccines and all that shit. This is one step above the mark of the beast. I don't know. You know, it's ridiculous, right? So yeah, these guys are fucking out there. You know, they're most definitely not leftists. And I want to show you one more thing before I close this, because there was a picture that had all of them together. Here it is. All right. Here's the picture of what all of these guys look like. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Let me just zoom in on that before we, here we go. Turn that back on. Here we go. This is all of our, you know, these are, and you know, they kind of look exactly what you thought they would look like, don't they? Now, what is it with extreme right-wing, you know, militia assholes and facial hair? Why do all these guys have fucking huge beards? Like, what is it about beards anyway? Like, is it because you're supposed to look tough if you have a beard? Is that why all these fucking morons are always like, have these giant, ridiculous, hillbilly fucking Amish looking beards that make them look like they should be like, I don't know, pumping fucking gas at the corner? Like, seriously, like, like, even this guy with his like little ridiculous sort of pseudo pencil Hitler stash, and this is the only dude that actually is clean shaven. I bet you he's the only guy that actually has a real job, probably. Right. You know what it is? My wife said it's because these other guys don't have jawlines. That's why they all have like the neck beard going, you know. And you know something? I admit, that's kind of why I had the beard too. I used to have a beard because, you know, I had this massive double chin, right? Back when I was like 230 pounds and shit. As of this morning, I weigh 188 pounds, which is very nice. I weigh myself every single morning, and I'm very, very happy to see that I'm managing to maintain this weight. I still need to lose 20 pounds. I'm the last person to make fun of somebody because they're fat, but at the same time, it's like, you know, don't be fucking delusional, man. Shave the beard. Anyway. So yeah, so these guys talked about murdering tyrants and shit. The name Wolverine Watchman is fucking hilarious. I thought that was a reference to Marvel Comics, but it's not. It's actually because Michigan is known as the Wolverine state. Like, I thought, like, because Watchmen is also a DC comic, so I was like, oh, did they just take, like, a Marvel and a DC reference and put them together? You know, I don't know if you guys ever read Watchmen, or there was a movie that came out a little while ago. In fact, I think there's a TV show on Amazon, but I've only ever watched the first episode. I mean, it looked alright. But no, that's not what they're referring to. They're referring to the Wolverine state. So, okay. Anyway, and yeah, so what was their plan? You know, their plan was to go kidnap the governor of Michigan, who was, you know, basically they were going to go kidnap her when she was on her way to her vacation house, right? And they were going to plant a lot of bombs, and then when the cops show up, they were going to blow up the bombs and kill the police, and then they were going to take Gretchen Whitmer, and they were going to put her on trial, right? Which, in real life, means they were going to murder her, because, you know, you don't just put somebody on trial, right? Without the intention of, I mean, come on. Are they going to give her a lawyer? No. They weren't going to do shit like that, okay? They were going to fucking kill her is what they were going to do, right? And the hope was to start World War III. That was the idea. You know, not World War III, sorry. A civil war. That was the plan. Is that this would be the first blow in a civil war, which would eventually topple the United States. and I guess supposedly, finally uncover Hillary's fucking, 30,000 missing emails or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm guessing, right? And it's like, yeah, so this is, now I want to ask, right? Um, when was it? Because we see a lot from the right wing everywhere talking about Antifa and talking about, left wing violence and how they're burning down cities, blah, 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 right? When was the last time some left wing people went and kidnapped a governor? When was the last time that happened? Like what? Kidnapped, just kidnap somebody. Like, what? Weather Underground, maybe? 1960s? Something like that? I mean, was that, can you name in any time in the last, I don't know, let's say 40 years, right? What was 40 years ago was 1970. No, 40 years ago is 1980. Anytime since the 80s that anyone on the left has done anything like this? I mean, can you name something like that? Like, I don't think so. I don't think there's ever been. I can't name one case. Like, I can't name one time that I can remember where this was, ever happened on the left. Right? Like, can you? I mean, can you name any time where, like, say, the FBI stopped a group of leftists from, say, blowing up a building since 1980? I don't know, right? How many times has that happened with people, on the fringe far right? Now, when I say fringe far right, I'm not talking, because some people get, confused by that and they think I'm talking about normal, ordinary Republicans, and I'm not. These guys are not normal, ordinary Republicans who just want to vote and, live their lives and just don't like taxes and shit like that. Okay. Far from it. All right. So see, and I think that's another thing that people get confused about, because they see the fact that, okay, well, these dudes were obviously right wing, and they think that means that, everybody who's right wing believes in this exact same shit. And that's not even close to being true at all. You can be a Republican and believe in small government and lower taxes and fiscal responsibility and blah, 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 blah. You can believe all of that shit and not be a violent, insane conspiracy theorist who wants to go kidnap the governor of fucking Michigan or blow shit up. Right? You can do that. That's perfectly reasonable, and nobody with a brain should be trying to accuse you otherwise. Nobody with a brain should be trying to equate ordinary, conservatives with this type of ridiculous, like, thing. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean to say that, politicians, on the other hand, get off scot-free. I mean, we just had Trump in the debates refuse to, disavow white supremacists, right? And it's like, now does he, and he also, if you remember back when Michigan was, when these guys were like, taking over the fucking federal building in Michigan, Trump was tweeting shit out saying, like, liberate Michigan and all that. Like, part of the job of the president is to... Why does this look so much different? Wait a minute. When I do this, and then when I put it on there, it looks like shit. Why is that, like... That's, like, way darker than I wanted that to be. Hang on. I'm, like, mixing it, and then when I put it on the thing, when I put it on the paper, it's, like, a completely different color than what it looks like when I'm, like... Why is that? What the hell? The cool thing about paint, though, is that you can just cover it up. You can just cover up everything, and you can just blend stuff. It's a learning process, folks. Like I said, I haven't painted anything in so long. So, It might turn out bad, and we might have to start all over. What the hell? I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, but yeah, part of being a leader is that you have to understand, especially when you're the president, you have to understand that people hinge on every word, right? So it is a big deal when they brought up, say, the Proud Boys during that debate, and he said, stand back and stand by, right? When he said that, instead of, all he had to do was say, I disavow, the support of any white supremacists, blah, 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 blah. That's all he had to say. But he didn't do that. He worded it in such a way that they could interpret it as him giving them support. That's what he did. Okay. Which is, whether or not Donald Trump actually wants that support from those people, it's extremely, I guess the word would be irresponsible to do what he did. Extremely irresponsible. Because it encourages insane people like this. If your plan is to go and kidnap the governor of your state, right, and with the hopes of starting a civil war, you're obviously not a very smart person to begin with, if that's your plan, right? If you actually think that you're going to be able to kidnap the governor of your state, murder a bunch of cops, start a civil war, and get away with it, if you actually think that, this is a great plan, let's do it, and that you'll actually succeed, right, you are not, an intellectual powerhouse, right? You're an idiot. Okay. And idiots do really dumb things for really dumb reasons. And all they fucking need is the perception that somebody in power who they think is on their side. That's all they need. All they need is well, hey, the president is on our side. There's no way we can lose. Let's do it. That's why the shit's dangerous, okay? Because, and I don't think people understand, that there are crazy people out there hinging on every fucking word this guy says. And not just Trump, but, media figures. I don't know if you guys remember several years back, there was a guy that got busted driving to Los Angeles with a bunch of guns. And he went because he heard something on Glenn Beck's radio show about this group of people in Los Angeles. It was this Jewish activist group in Los Angeles. I can't remember what they were called. And Glenn Beck had a segment about them on his show where he basically called them out as being leftists and terrorists and blah blah blah. And this one guy got arrested entering Los Angeles, and he had a ton of weapons, and he was basically going over to this foundation to kill all these guys. I can't remember exactly what their name was, but I'll see if I can dig that up and put it in the bottom as well. That was the thing that happened. And you got to remember, it's well, these are, I mean, look at that motherfucker. Look at this fucking guy. Well, I closed the thing, but let me open it back up. Just to remind you all who we're talking about here, right? Fuck you. Look at these fucking people. Look at this fucking guy. All right. Do you think this guy is sane? Look at this dude. Look at all the tattoos and shit all over his body. Do you think this dude's playing with a full deck? Okay. I mean, for crying out loud. Hang on. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to turn on the monitor. Shit. Well, you get the idea. You remember what he looks like, right? The dude with all the tattoos all over him and shit. I'm not going to do it again. So, yeah. That's why the shit's important, alright? Speaking of our illustrious leader, in regards to this event, Donald Trump basically said that Gretchen Whitmer should be grateful that his FBI managed to stop this attack. And, you know, that was his... Let me just pull up a thing here that has his exact words. All right. This is from The Independent. Let me turn on my monitor. Donald Trump calls Gretchen Whitmer ungrateful for being saved from militia kidnapping plot. Okay. 6 men allegedly conspired to abduct Governor. There it is again. 6 men. Should be 6 terrorists. Anyway, 6 men allegedly conspired to blah, 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 blah. Donald Trump's quote. Where is it? Where is his quote? Okay. Okay, then, this is what Donald Trump says here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. You know, I see Whitmer today. She was complaining, but it was our Justice Department that arrested the people that she was complaining about. It was my Justice Department that arrested them. My Justice Department. Like, he fucking owns it. Alright? See, that's what I think is rubbing people the wrong way when he said this. You know, Donald Trump does not own the fucking Justice Department. They don't work for him. Alright? They're supposed to work for us. Okay? He shouldn't get any credit at all. Yeah, like, fuck you, dude. Like, you know, like, okay, oh, she should be grateful that they stopped it. You know, like he's trying to basically take the credit for it. You know, but instead she goes and does her little political act and keeps her state closed, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, so she should just open her fucking state. She should just, like, capitulate to the demand of these fucking terrorists. You know, although we just won the big case, as you know, to open up Michigan. But what she's doing is a horrible thing to people. Right? So basically, he's blaming her because these assholes wanted to go, like, kidnap her. Saying it's her fault because she didn't open up the fucking state. Right? Because she doesn't want people to get killed by a goddamn disease. Somehow it's her fault that 6 terrorists wanted to kidnap her and kill her. It's unbelievable. Unfucking believable, man. I don't know. Hang on, I have to throw my cat out of the room. Come here, cat. Out you go. Come on. Out. Out, out, out. Thank you. If I don't kick him out, he's gonna start jumping on shit and knocking things over. Hey, we got a lot of viewers. What's up, guys? Who do we got here? We got Dinah Cat Loves Me. How's it going? Onward to Dystopia. What's happening? 1911. Good to see you, man. Cool, guys. Cool. Well, hey, please remember to post anything that you want me to talk about in the chat. And at the end of the stream, I'll go through and read all the chat. So, the last half hour. Anyway, yeah, that is the big news, you know. 6 assholes tried to fucking abduct a governor of the fucking state. Unbelievable. And, you know, I think we're going to see more of this. I think we're going to see a lot more, especially since it looks like, you know, Trump is probably going to lose the election. Right? That's how it's looking. I mean, I'm not gonna jump out and say it. I'm not gonna say, okay, you know, he most definitely, because we don't know what's gonna happen. You know, he could win, right? But looking at them polls, looks like he's gonna lose. I mean, there was a poll that came out, like yesterday that had, it had Biden ahead by fucking 21 points. It's like, Jesus Christ. Nationally, 21 points. And still ahead in every single swing state, right? I mean, I guess not Texas. You could call Texas a swing state now, too. So, but like all the other ones that used to be normal swing states, right? So, yeah, well, you know, what happens every time we have a Democrat in office is all of the right-wing crazies come out of the woodwork, militia guys, shit like that, you know, terrorists, and become a major fucking problem. And that's why we, you know, that's why we had the Oklahoma City bombing during the Clinton years. And then when Bush becomes president, they all kind of shut up for like 8 years and nobody cared. You know, we didn't hear anything about him. And then when Obama comes back, suddenly they're back again with a vengeance. And now there's more of them. And now we have like groups like Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys and all these other fucking like insane people. The Proud Boys are essentially a militia now also, you know. we talked a little bit about them last week, you know, and how it was like how they were founded ironically and blah blah blah, and they have all these weird rituals and shit like that. But if you actually look at pictures of them when they go out to, you know, basically assault BLM protesters, they're all wearing body armor. A lot of them are carrying rifles, right? They're essentially a fucking indistinguishable from a militia now, right? They've kind of graduated from the crazy, ironic, you know, ironic kind of pseudo-racist sort of thing, just to, you know, to be there just to piss off liberals. They've kind of like graduated from that into bona fide revolutionary terrorist fucking, you know, category. You know, these guys are fucking killing people. Let's not forget that. Anyway, God, there's hair on this. Let's see here. What do I need to do? I need some grass over there. Okay. So yeah, man, shit is not funny, right? And let's see. Let me find some green. Have I used this green? Not yet. So that kind of brought me. I wanted to talk about a little bit about conspiracy theories, because we started to touch on it before we, like, you know, I started to touch on it for a bit, but I didn't want to get too sidetracked. So for those of you who don't know, I used to be really, really into conspiracy theories. Like, a lot. You know, I was, you know, I never really believed in some of the really wacky shit. Like, you know, the protocols of the elders of Zion, that kind of thing. Or the, you know, but I definitely believed at one point that there could be conceivably a conspiracy to erase national boundaries, right? And kind of enslave, you know, various countries into a worldwide version of Nazi Germany. That was a belief that I entertained for a little while around the turn of the century. What got me into it was UFOs, believe it or not. Because ever since I was a kid, I always really liked reading about UFOs, you know. And that was sort of the gateway drug into conspiracy theories for me. Because, you know, you go to back in the day, back in the 90s, before the internet was that big of a thing, you'd go to a metaphysical bookstore or something like that, you know, or the paranormal section. And, you know, they'd have books about UFOs, and then right next to them would be books about the JFK assassination, or MK Ultra, right? Or, you know, the Soviet Union using psychics to, you know, remote view targets in the United States. And then there'd be a guy that takes it a little bit further and would claim that, yeah, but they're really using remote viewing to spy out alien bases on Mars and blah, 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 right? So I kind of got really into this stuff and read, you know, starting with the UFO things, Roswell, blah, 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 right? I really got into it. And then, you know, one thing kind of leads to another, right? And by the time, let's say around 2002, 2003, I was pretty much drinking the Kool-Aid on a lot of things. In particular, the JFK assassination. I was really into that. I really, like, bought that hook, line, and sinker. And believe it or not, I still do believe that there are some funny things about that. You know, in particular, the picture on Time that was published on Time magazine of Lee Harvey Oswald, right, is most definitely fake. And I say it's fake because there's actual evidence of it being fake, right? But, you know, I don't think that there was, you know, for example, I think the possibility exists of multiple shooters in that case, you know. So that's one thing, you know. But I've come to understand since then that conspiracy theories are essentially an industry, right? I've come to understand that. And most, if not all, of what you read in books or on conspiracy theory websites or on shows like Coast to Coast AM, that kind of thing, most, if not all of it, is complete and total bullshit. All right? You got to remember, because you got to remember these guys are selling books. That's their job, right? So if you read like a Richard Hoagland book or something and he's talking about, you know, the face on Mars, or if you're reading something by, you know, Linda Moulton Howe or Tex Mars or, you know, etc., etc., these guys are, you know, they're trying to make a living. So they're writing about stuff, you know, and they're making it up, right? It's all BS. It's all like, it's all just, it's basically science fiction, but they're pretending that it's real. And, you know, 90% of all of that stuff is just, I would even say more than 90%. I would say 99.9% of all of it is just entertainment. And you should only take it as entertainment if you're into it at all, right? And, you know, yeah, maybe something might have been true, something somewhere. Maybe there really were aliens, right? Maybe the government really did try to have a psychic program. Maybe there really was an MK Ultra. You know, who knows? All of this stuff, right? But the thing that you shouldn't do is believe it 100% wholeheartedly, so much that you're basing your world outlook on it. All right. And because at that point it becomes indistinguishable from a religion. Right. And I think that is what we're seeing a lot with like QAnon, you know, with these guys and this fucking militia, like, you know, these terrorist assholes, right, talking about, you know, Benghazi and all that crap, you know, and how there's like secret fucking groups of satanic pedophiles in Hollywood and blah 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 blah. And, you know, you ever wonder why there's never any arrests for any of this stuff, right? Let's take, for example, Hillary Clinton. Like, a lot of really insane conspiracy theory people who believe that Hillary Clinton actually is a, you know, satanic pederast who kidnaps children from Haiti and cooks them and eats them. Right? For people who actually believe that shit, has it ever occurred to you why it is that nobody in connection to that has ever actually been arrested or has ever actually gone on trial or has been held accountable in any way whatsoever? Have you ever wondered? Because do you think that for a moment, right, if there was evidence that Hillary Clinton, specifically Hillary Clinton, was involved in kidnapping children from Haiti and cannibalizing them, do you think for a nanosecond that Donald Trump or Bill Barr would not jump all over that? Do you really think that they would like... Because this is the conspiracy that's going through right-wing circles right now. Right. This is what the QAnon people are saying. Right now. They're saying that, you know, just try it. Go on Facebook and go to your favorite QAnon, you know, group. Facebook is starting to ban these people now, so it might be hard, right? You might have to go to Reddit instead. Go there, go to your favorite QAnon group, look at all the memes and the shit they're talking about, and this is what they're saying. They're saying that Donald Trump is faking the fact that he got sick from the big C word and is instead doing this as cover so that he can arrest Hillary Clinton. Right. Now, do you really think for a nanosecond, if there was any evidence, he would even have to do that? Why would he have to fake being sick? You know, does it logically follow that the President of the United States would have to be afraid of Hillary Clinton, who is not the president and is not holding, and does not hold any office at all right now? She's not even a senator anymore, right? She doesn't have any power at all right now, at all, politically, zero, right? So that must mean that if he's afraid of her, what is she, like a satanic priestess or some shit? Like, how is he afraid of her that he has to fake being sick, fake being in the hospital? It doesn't make any sense. It never, and that's the thing about conspiracy theories, is they never make any sense. But this is the shit that they're saying to each other, right? Do you really honestly believe that if there was any evidence at all, that he wouldn't pounce on it? Of course he fucking would. Of course he would. Donald Trump just said yesterday that he expressed yesterday in an interview on Fox News that Joe Biden should be thrown in jail. He said it yesterday. You know, which in any other election, the sitting president of the United States stating that his political opponent should be thrown in jail would be a massively gigantic story and would probably end Donald Trump's career, right? Political career, at least. But, you know, it's Trump, so no one gives a shit because he says wacky shit constantly, right? So, yeah, he obviously really does want to throw him in prison. How come he can't throw him in prison? How come he can't lock up Joe Biden and he can't lock up Hillary Clinton? Because there's no fucking evidence. That's why, right? He can't do it because there's no evidence. There's zero evidence of them have any wrongdoing at all. And, you know, even they can't just, you know, and if they were to just go and arrest them anyway, they would get off and it would look really bad, right? And that's actually illegal, you know? And Bill Barr would find himself in fucking prison if that's what happened. So that's why they're not doing it. So it's like, you know, I mean, seriously, man, fucking think, McFly, think, right? Like, you know, but this is what these people fucking believe. This is like the shit that we're dealing with. Why? Because this stuff is like a religion to them, okay? Because they forgot that conspiracy theories are an industry. They forgot that, you know, all of these people that peddle this bullshit are doing it because you're paying them. You're buying their books. You're going to their talks. You're giving their YouTube videos views and ad revenue. You're listening to their radio shows. Right. They're making money peddling this horse shit. Okay? There really is no difference between a guy that talks about conspiracy theories and a science fiction writer. There's zero difference at all. It's just one of, you know, well, I guess the only difference is that one of them says the shit that it's true, and the other one says it's make-believe. Right? One guy is trying to convince you that it's real. The problem is that if you think this shit's real, then the more you get into it, the more crazy and paranoid, delusional you become. And the world, I mean, just think about for a second what you have to believe in order to believe, you know, let's say the NWO conspiracy theory, New World Order, right? In order to believe that, all right, so what is the New World Order conspiracy theory? All right, let's start there. It's the idea that the governments of the world are subservient to a group that actually pulls the strings and controls all of the politics, controls all of the economics, right? Controls basically everything that happens everywhere in the world, to the point where every event that happens, everything from a wildfire in California to a death of a celebrity is interlinks with it in some way. And if you had, so that means if you believe this is true, then you have to believe that everything that happens all the time, everywhere, is under someone's control. So you have zero freedom, right? You probably believe that they're watching you and listening to you from your cell phone, right? And here's the thing about these is that there'll be little nuggets of truth. For example, you can spy on somebody with their cell phone. Even when it's turned off, your cell phone can be used as a microphone, right? And, I'm sure you've all experienced that. I'm sure you've all sort of had a conversation about, hey, I think we should go to this amusement park, and then you go on the internet and there's ads for that amusement park, right? And you wonder, how did that get there? That's your phone listening to you, right? I'm sure you've all encountered that. But just because, it can happen doesn't mean it is happening, number one. And just because, there's the capability exists for it doesn't mean that it's actually happening to you, right? An example of this, I remember I got in a debate once with a guy on who was an Alex Jones adherent, right? And this was before Alex Jones used to have a subreddit before it got banned, right? And they were talking about how Alex Jones on his show said that there was a virtual reality device in the 1960s that gave holodeck quality, virtual reality, right? The holodeck is the thing on Star Trek The Next Generation, right? Where Data would go and like there'd be an episode where Data would pretend to be Sherlock Holmes and shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and this is what Alex Jones said on his show. Virtual, a holodeck quality virtual reality system that existed in the 1960s, right? And I was debating a guy on Reddit over this, and I was like, that shit doesn't exist even today. There's no way in hell it existed in the 60s. And the guy said, it's true. And then he pointed this arcade machine. So I asked for some proof of that. I'm like, all right, show me the fucking proof that the holodeck existed in 1965. And he linked me to this machine that was, and God, I can't remember what it was called. But it was basically an arcade kind of thing. Like before there were arcade video games, there was a lot of like skill games and stuff. And it was basically an arcade cabinet. And what it was is that you put you would stand up like this. Here'd be the cabinet. You'd put your face in it and it would play a movie. And there would be, a fan, one of the movies was a guy on a bike, right? And it was supposed to be like you're riding a bike and there'd be a fan that would blow wind in your face. And the seat that you were on would rock, and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not a fucking holodeck. That's like a fucking arcade Nickelodeon machine, right? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And this is one of the things that these guys do, the conspiracy theorists. They'll take little nuggets of things that are true, or even things that are not true, but that they can claim are true, or that they can bend around in a certain way, and they'll work it into the mythology. Another one was that Alex Jones claimed that the cops had machines that can see through walls. And I was like, see through walls? The fuck are you talking about? And they pointed out, well, there's this radar that they used in order to find people who are growing marijuana plants, right? And it's like a heat detection thing, And you go, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you can see through a fucking wall. That means you can find heat signatures like, the Predator or whatever, right? And it's just another example of like, okay, well, this is technology that's existed for fucking decades, right? The ability to see heat signatures on things. They've had that for a long time, right? And it's another example of how they would take something that actually exists and twist it around into something that doesn't exist. Oh, it means that they can see through walls. There's somebody spying on you right now. Right now, they're watching you in the bathroom when you masturbate. You know, like that's like, and it's bullshit. And this is like, so what happens is that people get caught up in this stuff, right? Because if you fucking believe it, it perverts your worldview, right? They get caught up in this shit, and before you know it, they're planning a fucking revolution because they think that, you know, the evil socialist commies are fucking, you know, out to get them and stuff. Right? And that they're gonna like take over the country and string you up and like, you know, force feed you soybeans and shit so that you'll turn gay or whatever. You know, that's Alex Jones turning the frogs gay. Let's not forget about that. Unbelievable. And so, yeah. And I really think that a lot of that comes, you know, like these fucking 6 militia assholes. If somebody just would have fucking interjected themselves, you know, back when these guys were teenagers and told them this shit you believe is fucking fantasy and it's not true, and, you know, etc., etc., they wouldn't have tried to kidnap the fucking governor. Right? Like, if somebody just would have, like, interjected themselves and showed them the difference between fantasy and reality and taught them some critical thinking skills, right? And got them to understand that this fucking ridiculous conspiracy theory libertarian bullshit is just made up fucking baloney that people are fucking feeding you so that you'll go buy their books or whatever. Right? And whatnot, then they wouldn't radicalize. You know, and that's a big problem. It's gotten way worse since, you know, I'm kind of happy that I grew up without the internet, you know. And I think I was really the last generation to probably really grow up without the internet. Like, I didn't have internet access until I was steady, real internet access until I was probably 19, you know? And back then it was all like CompuServe and fucking Prodigy and all of that shit, you know? It didn't even really become something that, you know, really meant anything until around 2000, you know? Right around the time where you could get a lot of porn on it. That's when it really took off. That's when the internet really took off, you know? Like, that's something that's sort of universally understood, right? Is that, you know, once porn adapts your new platform, that's when everybody else is going to adapt it. So, anyway, let's what time? How much have we been going? Shit, it's been an hour. Time flies when you're actually sticking to the script and you have shit to talk about, huh? Let's see. What should we do next? Let's start coloring in some of their bodies here. And I was gonna make them green, but let's make them like red, because we got a lot of green in this picture, right? So let's get some red and just sort of laying down some highlights and stuff here. Kind of thin this out a little bit. All right. And I guess they don't all have to be the same color either. You can make some of these guys red and some of them blue or whatever. Let's start over here. So, yeah. What else are we going to talk about here? I did want to take some time and transition over to, oh yeah, there was one more conspiracy theory before we leave the subject of conspiracy theories in general. There's a conspiracy theory going around on Facebook and whatnot that Antifa is starting forest fires. Don't believe that shit. Please, if you're of the mindset of any of these things that, you know, and you don't like Antifa or whatever, that's fine. Okay. You know, your politics are your politics, whatever, right? But please don't believe that these guys are trying to start for. They're not trying to burn down anything. Okay, Antifa is not starting forest fires, right? That's ridiculous. All right, that's bullshit. And there's like lots of stuff going around about that. You know, you'll see in Facebook. I've got a thing here. And another one actually is that saying that the Proud Boys started it too. And no, Proud Boys are also not starting fires in California and Oregon, right? I mean, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. I mean, you know, and you know what that does? It takes away from the actual real reason that these things are happening, which is fucking global climate change, right? Um, like, that's the real fucking reason why this stuff's happening, you know? But if you think, you know, if you're a crazy right-winger, right, then, you know, climate change also is a fucking hoax, right? So obviously it can't be that. It has to be some other fucking reason. And it's like, no, man, you know, and that's one of the dangers. That's one of the dangers of, you know, believing in conspiracy theories. It's like, okay, well, sorry. You know, it prevents us from actually addressing the real causes of these problems. Like, back in 2018, when all these wildfires and shit started happening, right, a lot of memes went around about the causes of them. And one of them was that they were being caused by test firings from lasers. Okay. Here's a meme that was on Facebook a lot. This went around Facebook. Right. Lasers shooting down from the sky, starting wildfires in California in 2018. Right. And apparently Donald Trump Jr. fucking liked this. Right? And was, you know, now obviously Donald Trump Jr. doesn't believe that lasers started the fucking wildfires. I think he was just trolling or something right there. If he does, he's a goddamn moron, so I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he does fucking believe it. Right. But it's like, you know, people will believe anything except the actual fucking truth. Right? And it's like, you know, it's symptomatic of, okay, well, we don't, you know, obviously this must be a conspiracy because global warming isn't real, so some other nefarious reason must be doing it. Oh, it's those evil, mind-controlling Jews testing their space lasers. Right? Unfucking believable. And so now you're seeing, you know, I mean, wildfires again, you know, even bigger this time, right? I guess they're not testing space lasers anymore. Now it's Black Lives Matter that's fucking causing it. You know, and it's just like, come on, folks. I mean, I don't know. I sincerely hope that, you know, nobody out there watching this actually believes any of this shit. And if you know somebody that does, you know, talk to them. All right? Try to explain to them. Like, man, you know, because this is the problem. It's like the real cause of this problem is something that needs to be addressed, and them believing this horse shit actually prevents us from addressing it, right? And that's kind of the real, you know, the real reason that's the real damage that conspiracy theories do, is they draw away attention from the actual causes of these problems and prevent us from getting to real life solutions. You know, that's the real fucking problem. You know, it's like, I could give a shit, honestly, if you think that global warming is a hoax or that Chinese space lasers caused fucking, you know, the California wildfires. I really don't give a fuck what you believe, okay? But someone who believes that horseshit is going to vote against effective climate control legislation, right? Because they're going to think it's a Chinese hoax, you know, or whatnot. And that is when it becomes too much. That's when it fucks up everybody else. That's when it becomes detrimental to the rest of us, you know. Okay, let's see here. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm painting this bottom portion down here, so let's move on from that. Let's see, blah blah blah. Wanted to talk about one more thing here. A little bit of voter suppression, you know, just to kind of tie up, because we're getting closer and closer to the election, so, you know, election news is going to become a big deal in the coming days. And once again, in this election, like every election, there is lots of shenanigans in order to keep people from voting. And I don't know why, but it's almost always universally from the Republicans. Constantly. Can anybody out there remember any instance ever of Democrats trying to prevent people from voting? Can anybody name a court case where Democrats tried to get ballots thrown out or tried to, say, suppress the vote in certain neighborhoods by closing down polling stations? Anything like that? You know, kicking people off voter rolls? Can anybody out there find anything like that at all that's happened in the last, I don't know, 40 years, let's say, since 1980, right? I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a story in the news about voter suppression where it was basically being caused by Democrats, right? Every single election that I can remember, there's a story about voter suppression, and it's always, always, always Republicans trying to take away somebody's vote. Every time, right? Every election in many states around the country, Republicans throw people off of voter rolls. This happened, you know, in 2016, not even, you know, in Georgia. 50,000 people kicked off of voter rolls, right? Actually, no, it was 120,000 people kicked off the voter rolls in Georgia in 2016. It was 50,000 in 2004, if I remember. The exact same thing, right? 50,000 people kicked off of the voter rolls in Georgia, right? That seems to be the kind of go-to voter suppression tactic in the Deep South, seems to be to go through the voter rolls and kick off all the minorities and black people and Democrats. They do it. They love doing that. You know, Florida did the exact same thing in 2004 as well, right? And if you remember, and actually in 2000 also, the year 2000, there was also people getting kicked off the rolls, right? Let's see. Constantly. So this election, we had, of course, Donald Trump electing the that guy DeJoy, not electing but appointing DeJoy to be the Postmaster General. And if you don't remember who that guy was, he was a mega fundraiser, one of these guys that would go off and raise millions of dollars for Republican candidates, right? Who also happened to own some businesses that made mail sorting services. That was his business. And after he was appointed as the Postmaster General, he went around to various swing states and shut down a lot of these sorting machines in these states, right? In particular, in Democratic areas. And it just so happens that this time in this election, you know, the Democrats have a 3-to-1 advantage in mail-in ballots. because Democrats take the pandemic more seriously than Republicans and are planning on voting using mail-in and absentee ballots 3-1 according to Republicans. So, you know, that's why Donald Trump appoints this guy to basically nerf the mail, right? To destroy the mail system so that when, you know, the mail gets slowed way down and when ballots get sent, they don't get counted because they show up after the date. Because in every state there's a cutoff date. If your ballot doesn't make it, you know, if your mail-in ballot or your absentee ballot doesn't make it in time for that cutoff date, you know, they can't wait any longer. They have to certify the election. And that's the entire point. Thankfully, there's been some, you know, congressional hearings and there were some lawsuits against that. And supposedly, those machines have to be put back into order, working order. Who knows if that's actually going to happen in time for the election. You know, the damage could already be done. We won't know. Right? We're not going to know until after the election. So that's the big thing, you know. There was a couple of other little things around in different states. The governor of Texas ordered that all of the drop-off boxes for mail-in ballots, you know, because you don't have to just mail them in. You can actually fill it out, go down to your polling place and drop it off in the box yourself if you're afraid that the post office is not going to deliver it on time. The governor of Texas decided that each county was only allowed to have one drop-off box. Well, the thing is that some of the counties in Texas are gigantic, you know, with millions of people in them. So, for example, Harris County has 1,700 square miles, right? Which is pretty freaking big, you know, and like hundreds of thousands of people that live there. All of them have to just, you know, go to one drop-off box, you know, which in some cases could be hundreds of miles away. Are they going to do it? Nope, they're not. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if, yeah, you can vote, you have to drive 300 miles in order to go vote. Are you going to do it? No, you're not going to do it. You're probably going to send your ballot in through the mail. Lo and behold, oh wait, it doesn't show up on time. Right. You know, thankfully that got, there's a court order to stop that. The same thing happened in Ohio. The governor of Ohio tried to do the exact same thing as was done in Texas and tried to take away drop-off boxes there as well. And there was another, you know, that also lost in, you know, that lost in the courts. So, you know, you might be saying, well, hey, that's great. You know, it looks like all of these attempts to steal the fucking election seem to be failing. Well, these are just the ones we're hearing about. These are just the things that have come to light. So, you know, we don't really know what else is actually happening behind the scenes. You know, are people getting kicked off of voter rolls in all of these states? You know, are they, for example, closing down polling places? There was a thing I saw a little while ago where Arnold Schwarzenegger volunteered to personally pay for polling places in Georgia. Right? He said, I'll pay for it, you know, basically because he's like a fucking multi-millionaire and shit. You know, it's like, oh, you guys don't have money to keep these open? I'll pay for them. Right? I haven't heard anything more about that. I think it was Georgia. I don't know. It was some state down south. He volunteered to basically fucking keep them open. Right? You know, but yeah, so that's the thing, is that we don't know what other ridiculous Republican fuckery is going on in order to suppress votes or kick people off of voter rolls or screw up fucking the post office. You know, there's something like, right now the Trump campaign is running out of money, and what they're doing is they're not spending money on ads anymore, but what they are spending money on are lawyers in order to go screw up rules like this, right? In Iowa, I think it was, there's a law about how mail-in ballots have to be inside of a security envelope. And no, that wasn't it. What it was that they sent out basically a lot of the ballots already with people's information already filled in. And the Trump camp sued to get all of those thrown out for some reason. Basically, and it's like, well, why? Why would you sue to get that thrown out? Because it makes it easier to vote, right? It's like, okay, here's my ballot that's already custom made with all of my fucking info in it. What's the motivation behind stopping that? There is no, the only motivation is we don't want these people to fucking vote. That's their motivation. So they're doing shit like that. So all of, and it was something like, 18,000, or not 18,000, but it was a shitload of ballots. I can't remember exactly. I don't actually have that link to that right now, but I'll find it. And all of those had to be resent out to people. Those ballots all had to be like, invalidated, and new ones had to be sent out to the people who already voted, right? How many people got those ballots and didn't vote yet? How many of them are going to get the new ballot and think they already voted and just throw it away, right? That's the intention. The intention is to basically, get as many ballots thrown out as possible. That's what they're actually doing, right? And it's the most blatant and ridiculous, shenanigan, like, rat fuckery I've ever seen. And I can't understand anyone who even pays even the smallest bit of attention to this shit. How can you justify any of this stuff? These aren't like the normal, like, ordinary sort of voter suppression tactics, like voter ID, for example. You could conceivably, there is conceivably a logical explanation behind voter ID, although I think it's bullshit. Oh, we don't want non-citizens voting, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, that's not a problem, whatever, but at least that's an excuse. That's their fucking excuse for that, right? What's the excuse for not allowing, more than one fucking drop-off box in a county? What's the excuse for that, right? How does that stop what? What does it even do? Like, how does that stop what? Why would you do that, right? What, to stop fucking illegal aliens from voting? Like, how? How does that stop? It doesn't. There's no explanation for it. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous and blatant horseshit. And anybody who fucking, like, I don't understand how you could vote Republican after seeing something like that. I don't know. I'm hoping, I would think, in a perfect world, that would be something that would turn people away from them. And maybe it is. Maybe that's why, Joe Biden in this latest poll had a fucking 21-point lead. Because people are seeing this shit. I don't think so. I think most people who vote Republican have never even heard that this is something that's happening. I think they have no idea that it's happening, because I think the media they consume is not touching stories like these with a 10-foot pole, right? And I really think that they buy into the fucking Kool-Aid that, there's going to be buses of illegal immigrants driving around and voting and shit like that. And that's how they're going to justify, if Donald Trump loses the election. That's how they're going to justify it to themselves. Oh, we tried to stop this, but they cheated. That's what they're going to fucking say. That's it. And it's I don't know, it's fucking ridiculous, folks. It's ridiculous. And we have to, the only way that you can defeat this, the only way that you can get around all of this stuff is to overwhelm it with numbers, There's only so many people you can kick off the rolls, right? There's only so many ballots you can get lost in the mail, right? Or polling places you can close, whatever. All of this stuff has its limits. They can't close all of the polling places. They can't lose all of the ballots. They can't kick everybody off the rolls. Right. And we need the kind of numbers that, you know, and to defeat this kind of rat fuckery, you have to overwhelm it. You know, if you look at when Barack Obama won the election in 2008, you know, he had something like 10 million more people than, you know, his challenger did. Right. John McCain. God, I almost forgot who he was. Right. It was the difference was massive. You know, massive turnout. And that's how you defeat this stuff. Because we're not going to be able to do it in the courts anymore. The courts have been, you know, flipped conservative. That's all Donald Trump's been doing in the last 3 years. That's really the only thing that he's actually accomplished, you know, from his agenda, is flipping the courts. I mean, really, if you think about it, what has Donald Trump actually accomplished in his agenda? You know, what did he say he wanted to do? End the wars? He didn't do that, right? Overturn Obamacare, get a better plan that helps every healthcare plan. He didn't do that. They don't even have a fucking healthcare plan. They don't have a plan. There is no conservative GOP healthcare plan, right? Didn't do that shit. Build the wall across the southern border. Didn't do that. There's no fucking wall there, you know. So, has he enacted any of his agenda at all? Yes. He's made something like 243 appointments of federal judges, right, all around the country. Judges that are going to be there for decades. And judges that are going to strike down any type of law that tries to stop Republicans from cheating in elections. Right? Any kind of law that aims to stop any of this stuff. Or repeal existing laws that, you know, that result in voter suppression. Things like ID laws, you know, ID requirements, stuff like that. Another one, for example, in Florida, there was a law that got passed that said felons get their right to vote back, and then they quickly passed another one. Or they didn't pass a law, they made it so that, okay, well, you'll get it back, and this is actually not a law, it's just a policy that says, okay, you'll get your right to vote back after you pay off all your court fees and fines and shit like that, you know, which is like, why? How come I can't vote if I owe the state, you know, a fucking parking ticket? That doesn't make any fucking sense, but whatever, you know. But if we try to, like, get that thrown out, lo and behold, one of Trump's fucking appointees is going to overturn it. And, you know, that's kind of like maybe that was their plan all along. Right? So, yeah. So we're not going to be able to just, you know, it won't be easy. I'm not saying it's impossible. You know, it won't be easy. But in the meantime, you know, if you actually want to get some of this shit passed, if you actually want to repeal some of these laws, stuff like that, and get, you know, people elected that will actually do this, we're going to have to come out in bulk. We're going to have to come out in mass. Millions and millions and millions of people, right? And that's why I'm saying it's no guarantee that Joe Biden's going to win. Even if he does have, I think right now, he's got a 9-point advantage nationally, according to Real Clear Politics. Is it 9 points? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Joe Biden's lead, because he does have a lead right now. Let's see. Let's go up to my window, and let's type in Trump versus Biden. And let's go down to Real Clear Politics, general election. And let's see, where's it at? 9.8. 24 days. 25 days? 24 days before the election. He has basically a 10-point lead. Yeah, he's going to win. He's going to win. There'd have to be a fucking miracle for Joe Biden to lose now. You know, there'd have to be a video of him basically raping a baby would have to come out, you know, in order for him to fucking lose at this point. I mean, look at this shit. This is like ridiculous, right? And let's go battleground states, right? Florida, okay, 3.7 ahead in Florida. Pennsylvania. Hang on, let's go. Pennsylvania. God damn it, choose Pennsylvania. Thank you. 7.1 in Pennsylvania. He's winning Pennsylvania. Wisconsin. 5.5. He's probably going to win Wisconsin. North Carolina. 1.4. Statistically a tie. He could lose that one. Still technically ahead. Michigan. 6.7. He's winning Michigan. Ohio. Kind of a close in Ohio. Still technically ahead though. Right. Minnesota. Come on, Minnesota. 9.4. He's winning Minnesota. Yeah, so he's basically he's got this shit in the bag right here. And if it was, you know, okay, Iowa's kind of a little close, getting a little close. Arizona 2.7. Kind of close in Arizona. Nevada 6. He's going to win Nevada for sure. Texas. Bam. Okay, Texas is going to Trump. See, it's like all of these right? It's over, dude. Like, well, it would be over in any other election. It would be over. I don't want to say this time. I'm not gonna like, you know, right? And this is. I just want to kind of show you guys one other thing. There's one other. Where's my 270 to win? Where is it? 270 to win. Actually, I think I could just go to. I think that's what it is. There's another one that has this really good election map. Here we go. This one has like this really good map where you can like, all right, there we go. Where you can like set all of the different states according to how you think it's going to go. And if you look, here's the breakdown of the Electoral College, right? And from safe to likely to leaning. So, in order for Donald Trump to win, he has to win all of the toss-ups and like a significant chunk of those that lean Democratic in order to win. And if you look at, you know, so he has to win all of these toss-ups here, which there's no guarantee that he's going to win all of them. He'd have to win all of those, and he'd have to win something like some of these guys, or Arizona, Nevada, right? Pennsylvania, where he's behind 9 points. Didn't we just say he's behind 9 points in Pennsylvania? He's not going to win that. You know, basically, Joe Biden can afford to lose some of this shit. If Joe Biden lost Pennsylvania, he'd still win. You know, if you got everything else and if he lost all of the swing states and Pennsylvania, he'd still win the election. So it's like, yeah, shit is not looking good for the orange asshole in the White House. Right? And it's like the Republicans know it, and instead of actually trying to win, they're basically putting all their money into fucking cheating. That's what's going on, right? So just be aware, you know, and don't be disappointed either, because there's a good chance that they might pull it off. They might pull it off. And, you know, it could go to... I could really definitely see a scenario where they managed something of a repeat of 2000. I could see that happening. Where they have a state that's contested, and they manage to get the recount stopped, and it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court right now is conservative, thanks to Donald Trump basically making 3 appointments to the Supreme Court. Even if he doesn't get Amy Barrett in there, it's already conservative. It's already, you know, without her, it's 5-3. With her, it's fucking 6-3. And it's like, yeah, he's gonna win. So that's a very likely scenario right now. You know, we could definitely be seeing a repeat of 2000 happening next month, right? So don't be don't be surprised if that's what actually happens. And if that happens, it's going to be like, you know, the electoral college victory, which is like decided by the Supreme Court. If that actually happens, it'll be the third time in the last 20 years where a Republican president has lost the popular vote and won the election through the electoral college. Right. This time it won't just be 3 million people. It'll be, if this if this margin maintains, if we go into the election with a Biden having a 10-point lead, that means that he'll have like somewhere around 10 to 12 million people ahead in the popular vote. Right? And now, is anybody really, even you guys out there who basically are telling me that the popular vote doesn't matter, would you be comfortable with the guy who gets 12 million votes less actually winning the election? Would you be comfortable with that? Right? Because that's what we're looking at. Now I really don't think that'll happen. I really think if we actually do go into the election with Biden having a fucking 10-point lead like that, then that'll translate into him winning some of those swing states, and that won't be a problem. But, that doesn't mean that they won't pull off a fucking election theft anyway. That doesn't mean that they still are not going to fight like hell, right? I don't know, folks. There's a lot of unanswerable things coming in next month, and we don't even know what the fuck could happen. It could go a ton of different ways. I think if they do manage to fucking pull it off, I think if the Republicans actually do win through, legal means and not through the actual vote, that is to say, if they sue their way into the presidency, it's going to piss off a lot of people. And, yeah. I think that's like, I don't think people are going to stand for it. Like, if you think that, like, there's rioting and looting now, like, can you imagine what's going to fucking happen if the general consensus is that Trump stole the election? Right? Unbelievable. I don't know. I think that could be seriously fucking bad. Martial law bad, right? For real. And, they'd be justified in declaring martial law because there would be some actual fucking armed insurrection this time. And, so I don't know. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping that the turnout is big enough to where we don't actually have that problem, right? I'm hoping enough people actually come out to vote that it just overwhelms all of the fucking cheating and all of that shit. And we don't have to, like, spend 2021 fucking, like, in the middle of, like, severe uprisings and, severe rioting and strife, political strife. And that could be, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But am I worried about it? Yeah, a little, I mean, looking at the kind of numbers that we're seeing right now makes me a lot more confident that Biden is just going to win outright, But I don't want to discount anything. I don't want to say anything, before it happens. And I'm also not, I'm making sure that I'm, like, emotionally detached from this election as well. Because, there also is the possibility that Donald Trump just wins. Right? That could happen too, without cheating. I highly fucking doubt it, looking at the polls, but, you know, he could win somehow. You know, there could be a repeat of 2016, you know, that could happen. And, you know, if it does, well, shit. let's just make sure that we don't tie our mental health into the outcome of that election, just in case. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, I think, what time is it? 1:46. Let's take a look at some of the comments that you guys have been leaving. And I think we're at a pretty good stopping point here as far as the prepared material goes. So, looking pretty good. What do you think? Still a little flat. Haven't really got into any of the highlights or anything yet. Started doing a little bit on this bush, but then I realized, oh, I haven't even filled in the rest of the fucking page yet, so we'll come back to that later. But let's take a look at now some of your comments. Let's see. Let me move this over here onto my other monitor so I can read it. Damn, wow, we actually got like a pretty decent number of viewers this time. Holy shit. Cool. Well, anyway, let's see. Let's start with Dinah Cat Loves Me. I have a bad feeling that millions of Biden voters who never did mail in before are going to fuck it up and not manage to actually vote. Well, maybe. One thing that makes me a little confident about that is that most people who vote are old. Right? That's just most voters, you know, are older, right? And I really think that comes from a combination of older people have more of a sense of civic duty than younger people. You know, younger people tend to not really care so much about politics, really, unless you're an activist or something, you know, like, then you do. But most young people don't really give a shit. They, yeah, whatever, you know, the guy in charge is going to screw me no matter who he is, blah, 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 whatever, right? And so older people tend to have more experience with this stuff. I mean, I've voted, you know, absentee a couple of times, right? It's not that hard if you just follow the directions. But yeah, I mean, you are right. There are definitely going to be people who screw it up, who don't fill it out right, don't put a fucking stamp on the envelope or whatever, write their name wrong or some shit like that. And it's like, some of them are going to get thrown out, and it's like, yeah, well, I mean, that kind of happens all the time anyway. Whenever people vote by mail, some of them end up getting thrown out because they're like signed wrong, or, you know, etc. Whatever fucking reason, they came in too late, mainly, you know, whatever, or, you know, the hanging chads thing, they didn't do it right, whatever reason. So yeah, that may happen, you know. But you also got to remember that, you know, the Republicans in every other election before this have had an advantage in mail-in voting, right? Because the average age of the Republican, you know, the demographics for Republican voters are much older. And they tend to also live out in the country in a lot of these states, right? And, you know, if you live fucking, like I said, 50 miles away from your polling place, you're not going to drive out there to vote. You're going to send it in. So a lot of those guys, you know, also send their votes in all the time too. And a lot of those guys screw it up also. And, you know, and that's why it's bad when you mess up the post office. They don't understand that they're kind of shooting themselves in the leg. You know, if they're going to monkey with the post office, they're going to screw up a lot of Republican votes also. So it goes both ways. You know, if they screw up voting by mail, they're also screwing it up for themselves, right? So it's like, you know, it goes both ways, right? But I'm not too worried about that so much, you know. I mean, in order for it to really make a difference, it would have to be millions and millions and millions of votes, you know, would have to get thrown out, and that's usually not what happens. The danger comes from a county that doesn't have a lot of people where votes get thrown out, you know. And it definitely can tip an election. I mean, that's what happened in 2000, you know, something like came down to like 500 votes, right, in Florida in 2000. So, yeah, I mean, there is a danger. I mean, if anything, what that really means is every vote counts. Every vote counts, and conceivably, they should be trying to make it easier to vote, you know, but they don't do that. They don't do that because they don't want people to fucking vote. The Republicans, that is. The GOP doesn't want people to vote. You know, the less people that vote, the more likely they win. That's the truth. So, anyway, let's see. Dinah Cat loves me. Those guys are Anacaps. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is that, you know, I guess we were talking about the, militia terrorist guys from the beginning of the stream that wanted to kidnap the, governor. Yeah. And that's the, you know, why they're trying to bend it around, you know, basically saying that they're leftists or whatever, and it's like, I don't know. They're really, I mean, the anarcho-capitalism is definitely a right-wing position, right? You know, fucking objectivism and shit like that. I actually have entire videos on those guys, but I don't want to get into them too much. Data Cat loves me. I did have a phase where I thought revolution would be cool, but a leftist revolution. I didn't have that right-wing phase either, but then I wasn't a stupid virgin. Oh, yeah. Myself, I never wanted to actually take over the country, you know, in a revolution. I did entertain the possibility of going off and starting my own, like, you know, my own perfect society somewhere. Right? So, you know, in a commune or some shit. I did kind of believe that for a little while when I was like, you know, 17. Anyway, let's see. 1911 greater than all. I don't know why all the SJW sporting dyed hair and clinically obese. Wait, what? I don't know why are all the SJW sporting dyed hair and clinically obese. And then, oh no, SJWs, I'm angry 24/7 about a fat bitch with pink hair on Tumblr. I'm not sure what that was in reference to, but anyway. Danny Cat loves me. I thought it was from the movie Red Dawn. Oh yeah, the Wolverine, you know, what were they called again? Hang on, I got my notes here. They were called the, Wisconsin Wolverine Watchmen. Yeah, that was also Red Dawn. That was the name of the group of you know, freedom fighters. And if you guys have ever seen Red Dawn, it was actually pretty good. There was a remake, which was really crappy, that came out about 10 years ago. But the original movie was about in the 80s, and it was about the Russians invading the United States, and a group of teenagers who were like the football team kind of hide out in the mountains and start a resistance movement, you know. And like they hide out in the mountains and they begin with hunting rifles and stuff, and then they capture weapons from the Soviets, and you know, there's scenes where they're like blowing up helicopters with fucking, you know, RPG, you know, rocket propelled grenades and all that stuff, and they were called the Wolverines, and you know, yeah, one of those sort of, I think Patrick Swayze is in it, I don't know, kind of one of those like macho man propaganda, you know, things that you saw from like in the 80s, you know, Rambo kind of movies, that kind of thing. Except this one was a little more, you know, this one was less cartoonish. It actually had some shit to say about, you know, the horror of war, kind of, sort of, almost. You know, there's a part where they like catch a guy and they have to execute him because they can't take prisoners, and blah 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 blah, and everybody has anguish and they're gnashing their teeth and whatever, and somebody has to survive. And I actually really have not seen this movie in like literally 20 years. It's funny how you can remember a movie from 20 years ago, right? Like, I have no problem actually remembering that movie. I probably haven't seen it since like fucking, 1987 or some shit. I don't know. I don't even think I have it. I should go watch it again. Let's see. What else we got? You guys are talking about stuff. I'm not sure. 1911 greater than all. Technically, the right didn't kidnap a governor, so yeah, well, I guess they didn't. I guess if you don't count them getting caught by the FBI, then yeah, technically they didn't kidnap one. Right. But let's see. Trump disavowed bigots in 2017 post Charlottesville. Why have such duplicity? How so much duplicity already stated what he thought about it. Yeah, well, he didn't. All right, that I think that's been something me and you have gone back and forth on a lot of times, right? Donald Trump and what he said after Charlottesville and all that. I remain unconvinced. Okay, because when he said, the very fine people thing in Charlottesville, he was referring to a very specific recording, video. He was referring to video of basically Nazis. That's what he says, You saw the same video I did, right? And he said these were just guys that were there trying to, prevent this statue from being taken down. That's not true. Okay, what he's basically referring to, the video that he's referring to is the video of Richard Spencer and his friends the night before running around screaming Jews will not replace us and all that. Okay. Those are the people that he called very fine people. So let's not forget that shit. And the reason why Donald Trump is not disavowing these people, I mean, at least I think, because some people think it's because he actually is a white nationalist, blah, 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 right? I don't think Donald Trump's a white nationalist. I think he's racist, right? The way that people in his class, his socioeconomic class, express racism isn't the same way that people like Richard Spencer do, right? Richard Spencer will straight up get it, believes in the whole idea that, certain people, minorities, are subhuman and that they're like, actually not human beings. Right? That's the kind of racism that Richard Spencer and his Nazi friends subscribe to. The idea that, white people are actually like genetically superior and these other people are like actual blah blah blah, right? That's not the kind of racism Donald Trump and people who are rich in his socioeconomic class subscribe to. What they basically, the way they express it is through breeding. Donald Trump has said this a lot. I've got good genes. He says that all the time, right? And it's the idea that they are genetically, because of who they're, because of their lineage, not even so much their genes, even though he says good genes, it's more of their lineage. We come from good stock, stuff like that. And that's why they deserve the money and power they have. And that's why, poor people are poor because of their genetics. And that's basically, and that's the thing that people need to understand, right? Donald Trump is not just racist against people of color, right? He's not just bigoted, rather. Racist isn't the right word. He's not just bigoted against people of color, right? He's bigoted against poor white people because they're poor. And according to Donald Trump's worldview, the reason why they're poor, why poor people are poor, is because they're genetically predisposed to being poor. Okay. And that's why it's perfectly fine for somebody like Donald Trump to have a black friend. This is where that comes from. I'm not racist, I got a black friend. My black friend is one of the good ones. He's not a criminal. He's not poor. Right? This is what's going on in Trump's mind, in somebody's mind who thinks like this. This is how they're thinking. Okay? So it's not so much from Donald Trump, you know, although there is plenty of evidence to say that he just straight up doesn't like black people, you know. The Central Park Five come to mind. I don't know if you guys remember who that is. There were basically 5 guys who were accused of raping a white woman, and Donald Trump took out a huge ad he took out an ad in the New York Times, a full-page ad talking about how these guys should be like executed and shit like that. And then when it came out that they were, you know, when it was discovered they were innocent, he didn't retract his story, you know. The investigation concluded that they were innocent and that these other guys actually, you know, were guilty of the rape or whatever. Trump didn't take it back. He didn't, like, retract his, you know, statement. Basically doubled down on it and said these guys are still guilty. They should still be, like, executed, right, for this crime that it was proved that they didn't commit, you know. So that comes to mind. There's also stories about how he and his dad would basically, you know, prevent black people from renting their properties and stuff like that, you know. And there's definitely some evidence there that he just doesn't like black people in general, you know what I mean? But I really think also that if he were to meet, like, you know, I also think that if he were to, like, you know, he would have no problem, for example, doing business with a rich black person, you know, Kanye West, for example. Right? This is why Kanye West comes to the White House and stuff, because he's rich, okay? And that's why he gets Trump's ear, you know? So, you know, it has a lot more to do with it. You know, the class has a lot more to do with it when it comes to people like Trump than just straight up normal, than just race, you know. They're not so much, he's not so much going to be like, you know, running around with like the Confederate flag and stuff like that, right? And marching, you know, goose-stepping under a fucking swastika. He's not going to do that. He's going to be doing shit like passing laws that, you know, prevent black people from moving into a certain neighborhood. That's how people like Donald Trump express their bigotry. So, anyway, let's see what else we got here. And yeah, and just to before we move away from that, you know, that debate. I mean, let's not try to pretend that he said something else. He didn't, you know, he had the easiest layup on earth. All he had to say was, you know, I disavow any association with white supremacist groups. And he didn't say that. He said, you know, stand back and stand by, right? Right? He didn't say, you know, go away, you know, we don't want you here. No, he said stand back and stand by, and then immediately pivoted and said somebody has to do something about Antifa. He immediately turned around and attacked, right? Which, you know, now the Proud Boys are selling t-shirts that say stand back and stand by on them. Alright. He basically fucking emboldened those guys. So, you know, don't sit here and tell me that he said something else. That he, like, meant this. Oh, he meant to say... No. Let's take the man at his fucking word. Alright? He blew that. And that's, you know... That's evidence that he's a fucking white supremacist. So, I don't know. I'm very loath to, you know, I don't want to make excuses for him either. You know, that's the thing. It's like, you know, you don't want to believe that the President of the United States is, like, actually fucking, like, encouraging this type of violence. But he fucking is. He fucking is, dude. I'm sorry. You know? So, I'm sorry if you don't want to believe it, that's fine, 1911. But, you know, this is reality here, man. Alright. right. Let's see. Proud Boys are a joke similar to Meal Team 6. They were founded as a joke and still are jokes. I'm unaware at any time where Proud Boys actually killed someone, ironically led by a Latino. Well, there's the guy in Seattle's, autonomous zone CHOP. There's a guy there that was shot by a Proud Boy. That's what he claims. He claims that he was beaten and shot by one of them. And he survived, but another guy who was shot the same night, less than a block away, didn't survive. And they never actually found who shot that person. So, seeing how, it's most likely that was an assault by a Proud Boy, but we don't actually have any proof of that. So they have attempted to murder somebody. Maybe they actually haven't actually murdered anybody just yet, but they certainly have tried. And the thing about the Proud Boys is that they don't hide it either. They straight out say, yeah, we go to these things to fucking start shit and beat up commies. I don't know if you remember the video I played last week. I just want to beat up some commies. That's what that guy said. Right. They are led by a Latino, so yes. It seemed like the Proud Boys, when they first started, had lots of connections to white supremacists, right? It seemed like that, like right when they began, they attracted a bunch of those guys and have kind of moved past them. And they've, because they definitely have non-white members in their ranks, right? But like I said, they're kind of, they've kind of moved past the joke phase too. They may have been founded as a joke. They're not really much of a joke anymore. They're walking around with fucking rifles and shit. All right, so they're very much, like I said, like earlier, they're kind of indistinguishable just from any other, violent right-wing militia at this point. And yeah, maybe they were a joke, and maybe there are some guys who still think it's a joke, and maybe they do still engage in all the stupid shit like making you name fucking 5 brands of fucking breakfast cereal when they jump you in or whatever. Right. Yeah, it's all funny. It's funny and it's a joke until somebody gets their ass beat or somebody ends up fucking dead. It's only a matter of time. They haven't killed anyone yet. Well, they're walking around with rifles and shit at these protests. It's only a matter of time before somebody dies. All right. That's the thing when you have large numbers of armed people in one place who are, itching to just fucking pull that trigger. One of them's gonna fucking do it. It's only a matter of time before somebody does. So, keep that shit in mind. Let's see. 9/11 was an inside job. That building couldn't have collapsed under its own footprint without controlled demolition. Oh no. 1911. You're not a fucking truther, are you? Come on, man. Are you fucking serious? Dude, 9/11 is not an inside job. Alright? It was not. Okay? That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. I'm not even going to bother trying to debunk that shit right now, because that would take another 2 hours to talk about debunking the 9/11 was an inside job conspiracy theory, alright? Suffice to say, yes, planes actually hit the buildings. Yes, Building 7 collapsed under its own, it was not destroyed on purpose, it collapsed, right? Yes, jet fuel can melt steel beams. Alright, yes, the buildings were designed to fall in that way, to pancake down like that. The physics behind it have been proved over and over and over again. I don't know. We can talk about that one day if you want, but please, 1911, don't fucking believe that shit, okay? It was not an inside job. Alright? Seriously. Don't fucking drink that Kool-Aid, man. Alright. Let's see. Enrique Tarrio is the leader of Latinos for Trump. Yeah, and he also got arrested for carrying a fucking pistol when he was on probation, if I remember right. What else we got? It's more, okay, onward to dystopia. It's more comforting to believe a conspiracy theory than to acknowledge that bad things happen for no reason. Yes, this is true. It is. And that's one of the reasons why people believe in conspiracy theories, really. Because, you know, specifically because they have to, hang on a second, folks. I just need to get some black here. That, you know, that idea that no one's in charge is very, very disheartening to people in a lot of ways. You'll notice that a lot of people who are very into conspiracy theories also tend to be very religious. You know, there's a lot of overlap between highly religious people and wacky conspiracy nuts, right? And which was part of another reason why I kind of got out of them too, because I started seeing that connection. And you know, I'm essentially an atheist. I mean, I'm not really an atheist, but you know, I'm pretty much an atheist in everything but name, right? Like, you know, I don't know. I can talk about my religious beliefs one of these days, but right. And it's like, yeah, if you really like, because if you think about, you know, if you really believe no one's in charge and bad shit just happens for no reason, then that means bad things can happen to you at any given time for no reason. You know, that means you could wake up a year from now with cancer, right? For no reason that you can see, right? That means that you could get in a car accident tomorrow by no, you know, no fault of your own. That means that, you know, all types of manner of random shit can just happen. And people don't like that. People like the idea that things happen to people for a reason. And if you got sick for a reason, you know, if you get sick, it's for a reason. It's because you didn't take care of X, Y, and Z. You didn't take care of yourself. You didn't, you know, whatever. It must be the result of something you did. You don't just randomly get sick, you know, or you don't just randomly lose your job, or you don't just randomly, you know, come home and find that your fucking house burned down for no reason. People don't like that idea of uncertainty. And so they want to subscribe, you know, they like the idea of there being an orderly universe. And that generally the quality of someone's life is the result of actions that they, you know, they like that idea. They like the, you know, the result of actions they undertook. And that, you know, if you're a good person, good things will happen to you, right? And in real life, it's not really like that. You know, kind of, sort of, it is when it comes to things like your job and your relationships with people. But when it comes to other things, not really, you know. Random shit just happens to people, right? For example, there's a type of blindness where your retina detaches, right? Your retina detaches from like the rest of your eye, and it can just happen to anybody. You know, so you could just be like, oh, I got an eyelash in your eye one day, and you could be rubbing your eye, and your fucking retina can detach, and then you're fucking blind, right? That's true shit. That's why your mom always told you don't rub your eyes so much, right? Because that could just fucking happen, right? For no reason whatsoever. You know, you could develop diabetes, not because, and you could be someone that doesn't eat sweets and works out and all that shit, and it's just genetic. And you just get diabetes one day. Bam. You know, through no fault of your own. You know, that can happen to you, right? You know, you can come home one day, a satellite could fucking crash into your house and burn it down. I remember reading a story about that. Like, you know, like you ever go to like one of those like weird news websites, you know, where they talk about this happened in 1950, blah, blah, blah. That actually fucking happened to somebody. A guy in Australia got hit by a fucking satellite. That's true shit. just laying in his bed, sleeping. Fucking piece of space junk crashes through the fucking roof, hits the guy and kills him, right? And it's like, and that just kind of shows you, that means that, you know, you're really never truly safe anywhere you are in the world. Right? Right now, I could just be sitting here and somebody a mile away could fire a bullet into the sky. Right? Screwing around with their gun, celebrating your birthday or some shit. The bullet could go up into the sky, come down, crash through my roof, hit me in the head and kill me. Right? And 1 second I'm alive, next second, you know, just damn, dead. That shit like that happens every 4th of July in this country. Right? Random fucking guys getting blown away by, like, people celebrating. Right? And it's like, you know, but you don't think about it, and you don't want to believe that, because if you really, truly believed that life was random like that, it kind of makes you feel a little hopeless, because the next logical conclusion from that is, well, if life is really, truly that random, then nothing I do matters. Right? That's the next logical conclusion. And it's like, well, no, the things you do matter, even if they only matter to you specifically. And, you know, because, I mean, you know, that realization that, yes, ultimately nothing anybody does really matters, and one day the sun is going to go supernova and the entire earth is going to be destroyed, and there will be no people left, and nothing you've ever done, there'll be no record of it, and there won't even be anyone alive capable of remembering it, you know, 10 billion years from now or whatever. Like that realization, that, you know, that existential horror of, you know, the fact that really nothing really truly matters. That's too much for people, you know, even though it's true. Right? It's absolutely true. You know, one day there will be no Earth. You got to remember that shit too. People don't remember that. Yeah. All the efforts you went through to try to save the fucking whales aren't going to matter, because one day the whales are going to be dead, no matter if we save them or not, you know, because the fucking Earth will be gone. Right? And it's like, well, you know, does that mean I should just give up and kill myself? No, but some people can't handle that. Some people, that's the conclusion they come to. And it's like, they would much rather believe that there's a cabal of evil Jewish space lizards controlling everything, rather than have to face their own, you know, mortality like that. So, and yeah, you know, that's just human nature, right? What else we got here? Okay, I think we're getting pretty close to the end. Been about 2 hours. Last one from Onward Dystopia. If Trump steals the election, people will protest, but eventually go back to their lives. Enough people are still fairly comfortable. Yeah, I think eventually it would go back, but I think that there would be an understanding that we have an illegitimate president. And I think there would be, first off, a kind of a permanent protest from him. And he would still have his supporters. And would it eventually wear off? Maybe, but I think there would still be this undercurrent of, okay, you know, this is the last, you know, this guy's illegitimate. And pretty much everything that he fucking does is going to be questioned, right? And I think people might get violent. That's what I think. I think people would actually start getting violent if that were to happen. If he had, you know, somehow sneaks his way through, you know, and the perception, the public perception is that he stole the election, I think you might actually see not just riots, but, you know, things like fucking bombings. I think that could actually fucking happen. And like, I really don't want that to happen, because that is not going to end well for anybody, you know, in the country, right? Because that just means it's just going to legitimize, you know, in his view and in his supporters' view, the harsh, crackdowns that they take in order to, you know, stop the violence. That's how they're going to spin it. They're going to say, oh, we need to stop this violence. And it's just going to end up with more of our civil liberties being taken away, and everybody's going to lose, you know. Is there going to be a violent revolution in the country? No. I don't believe that. I don't believe there will be a violent revolution in the country. I don't think, you know, because like you said, yeah, most people are comfortable, but most people are not, you know, revolutionaries, right? I think there'll just be tons and tons of protests that would just be continuous, you know. Even now with all of places like, say, for example, Portland, you know, there's been protests in Portland for like fucking 100 days or something like that. They're small. They're confined to a couple of city blocks, you know. But I think you'd see Portland-style protests in every city around the country, sustained for weeks and weeks and years. That's what I think you'd see. And then I think you'd see Trump crack down on it extremely hard. And, you know, I don't know, and it's just going to result in ruining a lot of lives. I don't think it would be a positive thing. I don't think the populace is capable of overthrowing the United States government. And when I say that, I also include the right wing, you know, the guys with the guns. I don't think they're capable of overthrowing the United States government as well. I don't think it's possible in this day and age, right? With all of the technology and just the attitude of the general, you know, of the general populace towards that type of violence. I don't think people would go for it. Right. So there wouldn't be support, for example, if there was you know, an armed revolution. You know, no one's going to support that. I wouldn't support it. I'm not going to support an armed revolution in this country. No, I don't think so. I think it would have to basically hit the point before I would. It would have to hit the point where, like, you know, he steals the election and is, like, gunning people down in the streets. You know, I think then I would support it. If they, like, if he ordered, like, say, you know, his Federal Protection Service goons, the guys that are going out and, like, are kidnapping people in Portland and stuff, if those guys started using live rounds against people, you know, if he escalated it like that, then yeah, myself, I would, at that point, I would be like, okay, now they're shooting people in the streets, you know, they started the fucking war, we didn't. Right, at that point, I myself personally, I would support it, but even then, I still don't think we would see general support from the full, you know, populace in the country. I don't think we really ever would, you know. So, I don't know. I mean, and, you know, and just think about, do you really want that? Does anybody want that? I don't fucking want that. I don't want, you know, my country to devolve into a fucking civil war that, you know, seriously. And it doesn't matter who's on what side. You know what I mean? Like, that's like failed state shit. You know, we have a political process that's basically been able to prevent that kind of thing from happening for 100 years. You know, I mean, we did have a civil war once, right? So there's always the possibility that it could happen again. But I don't know, man. I could see, however, one last thing before we end this. I could see, however, the possibility of regional sort of conflicts. Like, and what do I mean by that? Well, I don't think there's going to be a civil war with a revolutionary army versus the government. I think it's more likely you would see groups of armed protesters clashing against each other. For example, you know, you have these Proud Boy guys showing up with rifles and Patriot Prayer And these terrorist militia assholes showing up with rifles and guns at BLM protests. And there are already instances where people on the left wing, Antifa people and BLM people, are showing up with rifles and stuff as well, right? And I really think there's the potential for those two guys to clash and there to be a gigantic shootout, right? And I think if, the Second American Civil War would look more like that, with these sort of factions, left-wing and right-wing factions fighting each other and not fighting the government. And regardless of who's in charge of the government, they'd just be sort of stuck in the middle trying to keep the peace. I see that happening, and not so much a states versus the, states versus the fucking, government versus the feds. Raph, what's up? And Shoma, how you doing? You don't want me to read your comments? Oh, well, okay. But, well, I want to read your comments. Let me read one of them. Okay, let's see. Most militiamen would attack innocent and unrelated weaker targets to compensate for their inability and cowardice to fight against bigger and real threats, as recent history have shown over us. That's true. That's true. It would definitely, oh, my back hurts. Hey, Raph, how long have you been on, dude? I don't know, because you always come on towards the end. It's like, shit, I was just about to end this, but now that you're here, maybe I should stay on for a little while. I don't know, I'm getting tired though, man. It's alright, it's 11 o'clock. I gotta end this. I'm sorry, guys. We made a lot of progress just looking at our picture here. Let me kind of turn down the light, because it's a little saturated. There we go. You know what? Maybe I can mess with the brightness, because there's like auto brightness on this thing. Let me go to my video capture device. Let me go to properties. Let's go over here. Let's go to configure video. And let's turn down the brightness a little bit. There you go. That actually looks a little closer to what we're seeing in real life. Like that. So, hit OK. That actually looks a little bit better. That's because it actually, like, I'm looking at the stream and it's all washed out. And maybe a little more light there. I think we made a lot of progress here. It's looking good. I think maybe there's little things but I think we could actually start kind of detailing it some. I still have to fill in the sky in the background. I guess this will be a daytime thing. But it's coming around. I'm very happy with what we're seeing so far. I mean, once again, this is like the first time I've painted anything in like a decade, so, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to look perfect, but I'll just do the best I can. You got to push yourselves, right? You got to push yourself in anything that you do, especially if you're an artist. If you just do the same shit over and over and over, you just stagnate and you never improve. So that's why I'm, deciding to actually paint this. And maybe I'll actually use, like, colored pencils and shit, too. Anyway, so let's end this. I gotta do my ending speech, because if I don't, nobody buys anything, so I noticed that the last couple times I did a stream and I didn't actually show my SD store, nobody bought anything, so that's why I gotta show it. Thank you, 1911, and thank you, Dynacat Loves Me, and thank you, Onward to Dystopia, and also Mr. Nshoma, thank you for showing up. Thank you guys for coming on and sticking with me for 2 hours, 2.5 hours already. Damn. It's funny how fast these things go when you're like actually like sticking to your prepared material. So let me just pull up my stuff here and kind of go through my ending. Oh, why did it just open 3 tabs? That's weird. Go through my ending thing. Let's see, open that guy. Let's go to nja.com. Okay, well, let me turn on my left monitor. Alright. So, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, I have an Etsy store. where I sell prints. And these are prints of stuff that I do. Here's an actual demon thing that we did. We drew this during a live stream over the course of several live streams, and now I got prints of it. So, you know, this is these are 11 by 17 prints that I draw. This one's a Lovecraft character. You know, this is stuff like that. And I have a couple of other ones. I have like Godzilla and some other ones, right? You know, this kind of thing. And if you like what I do and you want to see more of my stuff, and if you actually want to own some of my work, you can buy a print. These are about $14.99. I sell little ones for $7, $8. You know, this one's my own design. It's like a demon and shit. So yeah, I also have a Patreon, which is at you know, patreon.com/Hawanja. And if you want to do a recurring support of the channel, you can sign up there. So that's cool. If you like my artwork, I also have a DeviantArt website. So here's a bunch of my artwork here. And, you know, I post comics and stuff like that. You know, here's one that I just did recently. Kind of a parody thing. Right. And, you know, also little, you know, full-colored pieces and stuff. So if you want to see more of my artwork, you know, you can check me out at deviantart.com/Wanja. I'll put all the links to these things down in the thing. I also have a webcomic. This is hawanja.com, fun for the whole stupid family. And it's about ninjas and stuff like that. You know, and they fight people, blah, 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 blah. Ninjas and etc., etc. And then I have another one called Dirty Kitchen Comics. Let me go over to that one, which is more of an actual webcomic. You know, so this one is that going to load? Am I losing my internet connection here? I don't know. There it goes. Okay, I guess that was just a big picture. So, yeah, this was the same thing. So, you know, I post all of this stuff here, and I posted it on my DeviantArt thing as well, and, you know, etc., etc. And then I also have an Instagram, which you can see. It's Dirty Kitchen Press on Instagram.com. So here I usually post sketches and stuff like that. So that's, you know, if you want to see more of my work here, and then I have some sculptures, that kind of thing. So I'll usually post, yeah, like sketches here, and then like completed artwork will go to the DeviantArt site. And then I also have another YouTube channel. This is UCD Videos on YouTube, where I post lots of non-political content. So, game, movie, and toy reviews, you know, so I look at video games, you know, I did like a live stream of The Sims here, I do toy unboxings, I talk about movies and TV shows, stuff like that, that kind of thing. A lot of toys, because I'm a toy collector. So if you want to see some non-political content from me, you can check me out on UCD Videos. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm getting tired. Thank you guys. Oh yeah, let me post, okay, I'll post the Etsy link in the comments. Let's see, let me just go to my Etsy store. TXY. Good idea, Ref. Okay, copy that. Post it down there, paste as plain text. Bam. So yeah, if you like my stuff and you want to check me out, you know, those are the places you can check me out at. And I think we're in a good stopping point. I think let's continue on. Probably in the middle of the week, we'll do another stream. I think I'm actually going to do a little bit here just to kind of fill in these areas before we stream next time, and then that way next time we can actually just get into some of the details, you know. And yeah, we'll probably on Wednesday of next week, I most likely will do another stream. And if I don't on Wednesday, for sure it'll be Saturday. So I'm trying to get into the habit of doing 2 streams a week again. But thank you all so much. Thank you for coming. And, you know, everybody stay safe and stay sane. And I am out.